How's everyone doing? You guys ready to wrap it up? It's kind of bittersweet, right? It's bittersweet to kind of close this out. Well, this is going to be a really exciting conversation for a couple reasons. I think for those of you guys that were here yesterday and heard the panel, I think these are just really unique conversations that often don't get to happen at conferences, and especially at events like this where yesterday you got to hear a lot of kind of diverse backgrounds on mega projects and where kind of joint ventures played out for that project and team in particular. And today, Javier had a great idea to really bring this idea of trade partners and subcontractor kind of technology use cases, which is really going to be the crux of our conversation today of, hey, what is it like from maybe a trade partner or subcontractor perspective? So just maybe a quick show of hands. Who is a trade partner or subcontractor in the room? Any? Just our panel today. And that's okay. And then who's from the general contractor side? Right. Okay, cool. So yeah, this will be really awesome. This will be a really good chance for you guys to kind of hear from our panel, their perspective around technology. And I think oftentimes this gets missed a little bit, right? A lot of you all from the general contractor side may not know or may not go down to the level at the trade partner of what kind of their tech stack looks like. And so, which is really what the idea from this panel was going to be. So I'm really excited to have you guys get to meet our panel. I'm going to bring them up here, and they're going to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their experience and what they do from a trade partner perspective. And then we just have some questions that we're going to go through to really outline kind of what it looks like from them. And then we obviously are going to leave some time for some questions from you all. So panel, you guys want to come on up, and we'll have you guys introduce yourself, and then we'll get rolling in here. And Javi, did you have the clicker? You got it. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Mic check.
All right. Go for it.
All right. I'm Israel Jessop. I'm with BZI. We're a steel erector, fabricator. We have a kind of a wall division where we do exterior facades and kind of standing up that side of our expertise. I'm a project planning director as of about 2 months ago. I come from the project management side of things. Did that for about 4 years. Before that, I have field experience as a superintendent for a few years. So kind of worked my way through the field side, project management, now to planning. So I feel like it brings a lot of value having that field experience, at least for me when I pull up cmBuilder and able to visualize it because I've done a lot of this stuff before. So I'll pass it on.
Awesome.
All right, thank you for that. So this is kind of our layout of what we do, where we do it. Things jumping ahead here, but this is a big Boeing project that we're doing over in South Carolina. Fun fact, this spreader bar here is created by our innovation side of things. We have a whole division for that and spend a lot of money creating these really cool toys, the bracing systems, and this we worked with Extreme here on this big Tragzilla forklift. So have a lot of cool stuff going and trying to, I guess, lead technology innovation from a subcontractor perspective, trying to, set ourselves out there. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Israel.
All right. My name is Ben with Ceco Concrete Construction. We are a national or U.S.-based. We work in most every U.S. market. You can see kind of the stats up there. I've been based out of Seattle my whole life, but have more of a regional Pacific Northwest, put an X on the country. Concrete's in the name, but we like to say structural solutions because sometimes a steel building makes more sense, sometimes a light gauge metal building makes more sense, and so we'll get involved with installation of all of those if it makes sense from a client base. Here's some pictures of how we've used cmBuilder. It's where the rubber meets the road is labor for us. We're 80% labor cost structure. I think some of the Hensel Phelps guys said down at the crew leader level, at the last planner level, and so where you're using it internally is mostly internal coordination like that. That went fast.
Thanks, Ben.
Hi, everyone. Daniel with Urban One, VP of Construction Planning. So just briefly, my background sort of came in through the field. Started as a carpenter back in Australia and worked my way through to project management and sort of got inherited with the cmBuilder aspect with our company as I sort of progressed into this new role. So Just quickly going to show a few of the projects that we got currently that are underway and some are in pre-construction. This is one that's just happening down near Canby Bridge, where we had some struggles there with a large sewer pipe pumping station that was in close proximity, so it delayed the project almost a year now, but we're just going through with excavation there now, which is great. McCarthy Plaza, it's just it's one of the projects that been working on pre-con for a number of years, but it's one that's in the market, is currently on hold. Atlas Tower is another tower we're doing out in Surrey. We're just currently in the process of excavation on that one as well. So it's a 7-story cut down into the parkade for that one. Where are we? Dow, again, another one of the projects that has been suspended at the moment, but in pre-con. So it's currently going through a redesign at the moment. So moving from condo to more rental and possibly back to a hotel as well. This was, I guess you could say, prior to the cmBuilder days. As Javier mentioned, so I was director on this project here for the Trump Tower. Had we had cmBuilder in those days, we would have used it, but it wasn't something that was available to us at the time. And this is just an image of the crew on the roof of the building. Being Trump Tower, obviously got a lot of attention at the time with the elections and whatnot. So what we did find on this project was, we had a lot of issues with people trying to get in the building. We had a lot of people climbing the crane and doing these silly things and posting on YouTube, which was ridiculous what these kids were doing, but we're doing that. But one of the other instances we had, unbeknownst to us, was on a Sunday. Someone had got up there and decided to do a video clip, and so we only found this after it got posted up onto YouTube. So I've got a short excerpt here. You can see it's been produced quite well, and they did a really good job.
And this is real.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just leave it there. But so that was interesting coming in on a Monday and finding out that someone'd been up on the roof there, doing that sort of stuff. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hard to top that. But before AI generated videos, to know that was real. I think with the room that is so saturated from the general contractor perspective, the question I want to ask all three of you, and I have a background in general contracting as well, is what do you think is the biggest misconception from a contractor level to subcontractors and trade partners of the use of technology? Like, you guys have obviously worked with many different contractors before, but do you feel like there's a misconception that you all have seen or experienced that kind of bubble up, or that you feel like has kind of stood out of your guys' use of technology? And whoever wants to maybe take it, and be curious to hear maybe your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'd say from my perspective, then it has been somewhat tough, and like the typical iron worker, I'm sure everybody knows the stereotype, like they want their paper plans and trying to get them to change and see the value of having, on an iPad or a tablet, the updated drawings right there in your fingertips at every moment, having the right data. So that's something that we've done, is provide our guys with iPads, or even on their phone. We got Procore or whatever, however they access it. But they have access to the latest data right there at their fingertips at any moment. And then we use the Tekla, Trimble Connect, to where they can see the BIM model. They're out there putting in a bolt. They know exactly what that bolt looks like because they can pull it up.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I think there's a misconception that it's not going to get adopted. It's not going to get used. And if it gets rolled out in a way that it makes their life easier, if it makes it easier to communicate with their crews, if it makes their job easier, it's like when we're talking about the interns. The same thing happens with an apprentice carpenter or laborer. If it makes it better, they'll adopt it and find a great way to use it. But you got to bring it down to making their world better, not here you go use it kind of thing.
I think from a GC perspective here in Vancouver, and in any case I can speak to, is that I think we're going through this transition period with contractors and subcontractors in regards to doing the BIM modeling and whatnot. It's common with mechanical and electrical and whatnot, and trying to get some of the other trades to buy into it and see the benefit of it is. But even like with mechanical contractors, you got some that are they've been doing it for years, and others that we're still having to encourage them to sort of catch up with what's going on. So like I said, I think there's a lot of a US presence here, and it seems to be used a lot more, as not as much here, but it's great that we really want to try to have that as one of the key things with all the subcontractors, so that we can then integrate their models back into our coordination models.
Yeah, I think you kind of lead into another question I was curious to ask of. Similar to misconceptions, what do you think are the biggest opportunities that contractors can work better with you guys from a subcontractor perspective? Like what have you seen maybe from job to job that has kind of stood out that you're like, oh man, on the next one I got to remember this, that could, as it relates to technology specifically. So that could be whether it's getting involved with their trade tech stack earlier. It could be understanding what your guys' technology stack looks like. Like what opportunities have you guys maybe seen from job to job working with contractors where you're like, oh man, I wish we could maybe work better on that sense?
Yeah, I'd say from subcontractor side of things, I wish a lot more GCs would use cmBuilder or something like that, to where we can have those conversations early on, where it's not on a piece of paper that may not convey the whole story,
Yeah, I think it's maybe similar to the same way I asked last time, or answered the last one, is I wish we could get involved more earlier.
Yeah.
And maybe when a general contractor is making a cmBuilder plan, and it's not about cmBuilder, it's about making the plan, whether it's pour maps in Bluebeam or using highlighters like we used to, or however we're communicating the plan. If we could get involved more earlier and be part of that plan and give feedback and have it get incorporated, maybe even be the people who manipulate, give the keys away to your subcontractor, not just your interns, to mess with it, I think you'd have a better chance of total adoption on your job site, which is ultimately what we all want, is how can we get done faster, cheaper, safer.
Yeah, that's great. Daniel?
Again, I guess coming from the general contractor side, I mean the idea of having the trades get involved early, I think that's great. I think there's that balance between getting people in there early enough to sort of provide some value, but at the same time as when you're pursuing all these jobs, quite often it's like, okay, well, when is the right time? Because we're also trying to be respectful of people's time, and so typically we'll rely generally on our own expertise to sort of get the model to a certain area, but then there's definitely a time that we need to sort of take it that extra level and get that feedback, and ideally the right way to get it is from the guys who are actually going to be doing the work and building it. So it's very important to get it back in. It's just a matter of, okay, when's the right time to bring it in, and so
I would only add to that, I think that comes up a lot of, as subcontractors, I know we're going to have to bid the work at some point at a competitive level, which is what you're describing, is if there's transparency in that, if we'd really like your help, but we'll try not to give this away to all your competition, but you're still going to have to be low, or however you say that nicely.
Yeah, because you're still in the competitive market. So, but you normally have your trades that you're familiar with, you work with before, and like I said, for a lot of the projects that I do, I guess some of the projects you guys doing are more intricate and unique, I guess, whereas we sort of focus more on the high-rise residential and mixed use. So. We have a good understanding of what, because it's fairly repetitive, but, are always going to be those little nuances that come into play.
Yeah, I would add one more thing. We're on a lot of data center campuses and in with a lot of developers that we've worked with, to where even as a subcontractor, there's several jobs we're on where the GC hasn't even been selected yet, where they're coming to us saying, how would you build this? And what solutions can you bring early on? So that's been fun to see.
Yeah. Man, I have so many follow-ups to that, but maybe in this kind of realm of, jobs are getting much more complex, plans are getting much more in depth. We obviously saw the awards and the amazing planning that's done. I'm curious, with a lot of the vendors that are here, DroneDeploy included, being in the kind of world of reality capture, how has that kind of changed your guys' kind of efforts at a trade partner level and even at a GC level, like to help develop better plans or to help bring more people around kind of the ideas that you guys are working towards? And yeah, just maybe like what's your kind of general view of reality capture and how that's kind of changing some of the work that you guys are doing at the subcontractor level?
Yeah, so I haven't had a lot to do with reality capture myself, but I know we have a sister company that's under kind of an umbrella that has used some of that. But from a subcontractor, it's not as prevalent just because, steel erection and all that. Yeah, you want, as-built for like plumbness and all that. There's some tools out there that can do that, but I don't know, like, its accuracy, like if it's, 110 feet in the air versus like walking around, in actual smaller spaces. There's a lot that I'm sure there's out there that we could probably utilize more from a subcontractor side, but I'm curious to hear the GC's perspective.
We've used, not to plug one or the other, but we've used open space quite a bit from a capture. It's great for knowing where rebar is. It's great for knowing where, when you do screw up and you got to drill into completed PT slabs in our world, it's much better not to hit that kind of stuff. I think what's part of your question is it seems to always resort back to CYA type use. It's document after the fact, protect yourself, and it seems like there would be much better opportunity for collaboration, design build, and collaboration. What's the best way to fix and support each other? But I don't see that going away. The ability for an intern to go out and know where everything is versus old school having to go out, take photos, and write stuff down and tape measures and stuff I don't see that ever going away. It's great. Yeah.
In that sense, did you guys find that tool as a need, or how did you kind of get exposed to that as something that you guys have found value in?
I think the original impetus was, I don't ever want to do that again, right, type of stuff. What could we do better? And then it's just, you work for a lot of big GCs all over the country, and you see people and you go, wow, could we afford that? And I think we can. Once you spend $100,000 on a settlement, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reality capture, and for me, it's an exciting space. I really like the idea of the transparency that it gives. Back in the day when you used to walk around with a camera, when I started, I remember a lot of time I'd be taking photos and half the time not even realizing what I was actually capturing because, as you say, a little bit of a cover your ass type scenario, but you could go back there and, 12 months later, you're llooking for something. You think, oh, hang on, yeah, no, I took a photo of that, not knowing that you even needed the information when you took it. So, when it comes to the tools are out there, and I mean, we use DroneDeploy, at the conception of all our projects. So even during the pursuit stage, we're doing the drone capture, and that's where everything sort of starts, I would say, for us when it comes to all the planning. So we start with that, and we incorporate that into the cmBuilder model. We continue to do weekly flights on all our projects as well. So it gives us a good perspective from the outside. Then on the inside, obviously, we got cubics and build dots and those items as well, which it all sort of ties in with the VDC components of how that all works. And we're working through that process of trying to get the value out of that for beyond the clash detection. And then now it's like, okay, well, what's in the right place, what's not? So we're working through that, and that's a powerful tool as well. And we haven't got there yet, but the idea is this whole digital twin and having something that for some projects where they can keep these models and use them for their maintenance and ongoing.
Ben, you kind of mentioned this. Your exposure to like some tools that you guys have found value in has been through a contractor of just kind of seeing it on jobs like that. Is that like, would you say that's kind of the primary source of how you guys find different tools, or are there other ways that that you've found that things have kind of come across your desk, or like you guys do your own research? I think contractors may have a little bit different of an advantage of going to either different events or engaging with other folks in the industry. But yeah, like what does finding new technology look like from maybe your guys' perspective to try to apply it and like say, hey, like I'm going to personalize this to our own workflow. Like good to know how you guys are using it and working through it. Like maybe that could apply to us. But yeah, like how do you guys come across and find different tools that eventually you guys bring on board?
Yeah, I think up until about 5 years ago, it's following the customer's lead primarily. It's usually a client-focused situation. Hey, the old way of CYA or the old way of collaboration was like this, and then a Hensel Phelps or a Turner or somebody big, I'm just throwing names out, says, hey, we're using this now. It'd be cool if you guys would do it too. We could just share. And then I think that's how we found out. In the last 5 years, though, as a bigger sub, we've got an innovation and technology person now. And he's got a couple people. And so they're you know, I think it's the AI buzz has caused us to go, if somebody's not focused on this, we're going to have our head in the foundations and miss out. And so they're more going to things like this. You know, this happens to be in Vancouver, British Columbia, and those guys are in Kansas, so it made sense for me to drive up here. But these kinds of events and these kinds of let's go see what's happening and going to the trade shows, go to World of Concrete, to the technology part, that's much more of a point of emphasis than it ever has been in the last few years.
That's awesome.
One thing I'd say too, with the when we're talking about like all these tools and whatnot, I mean these sorts of conferences are great places to see all these things. But I mean we also want to be conscious of the fatigue that comes with it, with using all these new platforms, because there's always the new shiny tool or the new shiny application that can be used, and it all looks good and it looks great. But what we found as well, like as we're introducing this with our teams, is like you need to get that buy-in from the guys that want to use it, but we also see that fatigue where it's like, oh, okay, what's the next thing, you know? So there's a bit of a balance there with bringing these new applications in.
Yeah. Israel, any thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, I would echo that. Just actually having the guys in the field and the actual execution teams. A lot of times we'll have them come to us with ideas. Like even with AI, everybody's like, you know, what are we doing? So to see that coming from the field is really cool, because that means we have guys out there actually thinking about technology and trying to think of ways to have their life be easier and projects more successful.
Yeah. I'm curious, too, a little bit. A lot of these tools, cmBuilder, a lot of the reality capture tools that are here, oftentimes talk about bringing everyone into the instance, right? Or inviting as many people as you can to kind of be a part of the tool that you're using. Do you guys find that those invites are pretty open to you all, or that maybe some on the contractor side they're not inviting you guys to them? I can see it from maybe both directions, of like a contractor being like, hey, this is our stuff. You know, we're to your point of like, hey, this is our own CYA. If you guys want to do this, this is your own CYA. Like, do you find it to be pretty inclusive to some of the tools that maybe a contractor's using to invite you guys in? And maybe what's your perspective when you do get an invite? Like, are you eager and excited to want to get into them and maybe learn it and kind of get familiar with it? But yeah, just curious about kind of the inclusion into maybe a lot of the tech stack that contractors have, and like what's that like from your guys' perspective, seeing some of those things.
Yeah, I'd say from my perspective, it can get a little cumbersome, and like some people using ACC and project site all like stacked on top of each other. So trying to figure out where to go for what, it's been interesting sometimes. But I'd say it depends. Like some contractors, they're more on the forefront of technology and letting people use it and collaborating more. Others, they kind of do it the old way.
Do you have a preference? I mean,
I'd say for me personally, I like technology, so I'd say more the merrier.
Yeah. Ben, any thoughts?
I think I'd echo very similar in that it goes client by client and sometimes job team by job team within a client, depending on how big they are. There are some clients that just have a culture of it's very inclusive and we're going to share and you're going to share and get used to it. We're not going to screw you. There's some that are very hold it, to themselves, and then there's some that just force it, whether it's adding value or not. And you have to manage each one of those clients differently, because at the end, the general contractors are our clients, so it's not just my way, but you try to educate through this is adding me value or not.
Daniel, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we see the value of having that inclusive with all the contractors. I got to say, but looking at it from my side, I mean, we're sort of the ones sort of saying, yeah, thou shalt use this, and I could imagine from from your side, it's like if you've got 100 jobs and some of these larger companies, and every contractor is using something different. It's like that's got to be a real challenge, because this guy wants this and this other guy wants another platform. So it's not something that we're sort of really exposed to, but I can see how it would be a challenge for the subcontractors having to work within all these different programs and platforms.
Yeah, I'd say even with DroneDeploy, I've been on a number of job sites where they give us access and let us go in there and download whatever we want and kind of let us run wild. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. A little bit of a pivot here. You kind of mentioned a little bit of just like excitement around new tools, new workflows, new things. Obviously, there's so much stuff that you can kind of sit underneath the waterfall and get drenched by it. But what's been kind of some things that you guys are excited about that either you're seeing here in just the calendar year of 26 that has been, I don't want to say transformative, that word gets tossed around a lot, but yeah, what would have been maybe kind of an unexpected thing that you found from a technology perspective that like really is having a lot of value and impact on your guys' business that, again, maybe from the contractor side they may not know or haven't had a chance to hear?
I'd say cmBuilder. Like, I'm 2 months into this.
Shameless plug. Yeah.
I'm sitting under the waterfall enjoying it.
There's been enough shameless plugs, so I'm gonna go a different way at the. I've been, as we've started focusing on AI and real data capture, 100-year-old company that has an 80% labor cost structure, not hurting people is a big deal. That's a primary focus. And when you got a 100-year-old company, you got 100 years of procedure. And so there's a manual for everything. It feels like the military sometime. And asking somebody to do a JHA or a morning huddle plan, whether it's for safety or productivity or whatever, it's an unbelievable amount of information hidden in a whole too many spots. The last update's hidden in an email. The one's in a manual that the guy at the job site maybe hasn't updated, so it's 2 years old. And as that stuff's been fed into the AI agent, and they get to say prompts of, hey, I'd really like a JSA for installing a column form, and what gets spit out is 90% of the way there, and now they're just with their crew saying, all right, what are we actually doing today? We've seen a powerful increase in it actually getting used as opposed to double check. That's what I've seen technology-wise in the last few years that is like, wow, we just turned this thing on and people are using it. That's been super cool, I think.
Daniel?
I think from a technology point, maybe something that we haven't used, but what I'm looking forward to is with the robotics and what that, potential of what that can offer as well. So I know it's out there now, and speaking to a few people here that it is being tested in certain applications, but I'm excited to sort of see where the robotics can come in. Going back to a lot of the 3D capture, visualization capture. I think that'd be really cool, as opposed to having to allocate some poor person that walk around with a camera on their head. But that's what I'm looking forward to.
That's awesome. You brought up something, Ben, that kind of reminded me of just what I heard from you, is just like how discoverability across different forms and documents and things is like, it's truly changed the end user experience or the end employee experience of like just feeling much more connected to either your org and processes and procedures. I'm going to ask, are the McCarthy guys in here? Is there any McCarthy folks? Yeah, cool. So fun fact, this is kind of just a little side story, and curious to hear kind of your guys' thoughts too on this. McCarthy actually introduced DroneDeploy to a tool called Glean. McCarthy folks back there, you guys know about that? Yeah. So shameless plug on kind of this idea of discoverability. Glean, if you haven't heard about it, go Google it and check it out. But it's basically a tool that allows you to scrub all the different tools and platforms that live across your organization, and basically give the end user this amazing chat-like experience to go and find things. And we actually found it from the McCarthy team, and the DroneDeploy team was like, this is amazing. Like, why and how are we not using this? And it's like even down to the end user like myself of like, this has totally changed the way that I have access to information and can see different things. And it's really cool that opportunities like that exist across not only the trade partner and subcontractor and contractor world, but seeing of just that use and value. Like, hey, what are you guys using, and like how do you use it, and then obviously you get it implemented and rolled out throughout your team, and like you see the tangible results of that. So yeah, just kind of a cool when you were saying that, it kind of reminded me too. I'm curious too, as we kind of land the plane a little bit and get some questions from the audience of what piece of advice would you guys give to obviously a contractor heavy team about, they're going to go back to their offices and teams and projects here after this event, and obviously work with a bunch of different subcontractors out on their team. But what would you want to tell them that about, really, it could be anything. It could be about just your guys' kind of impact the technology has had, or just a piece of advice that you would give to them. Is there anything that kind of stands out that you would want to leave them with as they go back and interact with a handful of different folks like your guys' self?
I'd say from my standpoint would be, soliciting that information early on in the early planning from your subcontractors of like, how are you going to build this? Obviously everybody builds it different ways. Each contractor kind of has their way of doing things, and just getting on the same page early on, but reaching out for that information, because everybody's busy. Subcontractors got a lot of things going on. So even for me, finding the time to be intentional and get the information to the GC of like, hey, this is how we're going to do things, and getting on the same page, even with like site logistics, all that. Like obviously cmBuilder helps a lot with that. Shameless plug. But no, it's true though. Being able to get up on the same page early on, and I'd say, people have mentioned it several times today, is, the earlier the better, but it really is true. Be able to plan it, and obviously things change, you got to adapt, but if you have a good solid plan with the subcontractor involved, you're going to have a lot better success.
Yeah, good stuff.
I think I'm echoing the same message, is get us involved earlier, but more importantly, let us make the decision that, hey, this isn't worth it to us. Because I think there is a hesitation, to your point, to include trade partners, because you're going to have to bid them out later, or you may not get them to use them, and now you're trying to do the right thing and be nice. I don't want to waste your time and have you do a bunch of work, but I think we're eager to distinguish ourselves, if that's the right word, from our competitors with our ability to help. And as long as you're transparent and saying, hey, I'm still going to have to go out and competitively do this, but if you're willing to help, we'd sure like your input. And then the only other thing I'd say is, 'cause I think we're talking to more virtual people than real on-site builder people, is keep pushing the envelope. I think down at the trade level, anything that makes us communicate better, especially in a workforce environment down at the building it, at best, we're speaking the same language, and usually we're not. And so if there's something visual that makes it easier for our crews at the job site level, mostly Spanish-speaking in the United States, to see a picture that says, here's where I want you to go next. If that could get to them, the more it could get to them, keep pushing the envelope, because anybody who goes out to a job site that doesn't look right and they're working off of paper sketches can just see, God, there's got to be a better way. And keep pushing it and keep getting it down to that level. Let the interns, let the carpenters play with it. They'll tell you what they need, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's great.
I think obviously in this room here, sort of speaking in the choir, because everyone here is into the VDC and obviously has a belief in the benefit of it. But just to touch back on what I mentioned before, that, like I said, in the Vancouver market for sure, like the trades still haven't really adopted, and if anything, that's what I would want to encourage, is it's going to become more of a requirement, and should be more of an expectation and standard that all the trades should be providing their modelling for their scopes. So that's what I'd really like to see. But like I said, preaching to the choir here, I think these guys are doing it already, so that's great.
I heard time, get them involved early, transparency, that's a big thing, and tenacity, maybe just say, hey, like keep going and keep trying to push down to even the end users down on the job site to say, hey, this is the way we're going, and come along with us on the ride. So that's great. Thank you, guys. Let's give them a little round of applause real quick before we get to yeah, so we want to take some questions, obviously, from you guys. So we had quite a bit of time here on the back end, and Javier's got a mic, and we'll move it around.
Hey, thanks, guys. What do you look for in like a tech requirements or a BIM execution plan document that gives you confidence that this is in good hands compared to the kind of thing that makes you say, oh, geez, these are requirements that are being sent from on high, but aren't giving you confidence that the project's going to be well done? What do you look for in those requirements lists that gives you confidence that things are going to work out?
Let me go.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, and forgive me if I don't speak the language correctly, but like you hear LOD 350, is that what we're talking about right now from a BIM? As it relates to my scope of work, which is structural concrete most of the time, what I'm really being asked to do is take the model from an engineer of record and trim it down and turn it back in so that my general contractor and MEP electrical friends can start playing with it. And so it's really not about the description of that, because I don't really own the structure, except in a few rare situations, because we do design build concrete, but even then I'm subbing out the engineering to an engineer of record underneath my umbrella. And so what I'm really looking for is to go meet the person who's gonna run the VDC coordination on my customer side and see if they really get the reality of, or if they're just gonna follow the manual and ask you to do stupid stuff, and try to ferret that out to try to say, are you committing me to 2,000 man hours or 12 man hours? I don't know if that answers your question, but it's more about the human beings running the show than it is the LOD 350 that I couldn't even, yeah.
Yeah, I would add to that. I don't know the terminology for sure, but we've ran into it on some projects where the GC is requiring a certain way of doing it, a certain program or something, and you get a cloud hosted. I don't know the whole terminology, so forgive me, but kind of some extra hoops that we don't typically jump through, and took a conversation or two of like, hey, I don't know what you're trying to get at, but we've done it this way before and it works. So what are we trying to do here? So we've been able to find some common ground on that.
It's awesome.
Maybe I just add one more to it as well. So I think when it comes to the BIM execution plan, is the other thing I've seen quite often is that they become this large document, which, to be honest, we've had some projects where consultants haven't even read them and they don't even know what they're delivering. So I think it's that whole analysis of keeping it simple and something that's brief that everyone can understand without having to sort of have this encyclopedia of documents and they say they have all these technical terms that a lot of people are going to lose.
Good stuff. Good, great question. Go for it.
Yeah, if you guys could, I mean, you got a lot of GCs in the room, so I don't want to turn this into just a venting session. But if you, if you could, yeah, right. If you could remove one hurdle that's not get involved in the earlier pre-bid planning stuff, because a lot of times that's beyond our control. What would be one thing you could remove that would help us on the technology side of things, kind of promote your internal tech stack and your internal processes to make you a more successful business?
Yes. Next year's moderator. That's a great question.
I would answer with what stops my people from just wanting to jump in and just blindly try stuff is for so often they get burnt as it ends up getting used as a way to document their screw ups. And it's cmBuilder's great, but it sucks when there's a picture of your shit not in the right place, or the drone captures a guy, in an unsafe position. And not that we shouldn't be trying to correct that, but my advice would be to create a culture that is collaborative and supportive. And I'm not here to backcharge you. I'm not here to write your safety, whatever your guys' form is for how stupid we are, is try to create a culture where we're just trying to help. And the guy on the job site that you really want to adopt it, or the PM that you want to adopt it, doesn't feel like it's going to get used against him. And even though you're probably not, and that's never the intent, it gets perceived that way. And that's when I see people take a step back and be like, I'm not touching this right there. If that answers your question.
Any other thoughts?
I'd just say I would echo that same thing. Something we've seen as well.
Good answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, we got one.
So y'all talked about getting in early, right? From a trades perspective, what is defined as early? At what stage in the project would you like to get in? And from the GC's perspective, when do you start engaging your trades that you're going to use, and how early is that in to maybe get their insight and make the project more successful?
Well, from the GC side, like I said, I think the type of work that we do, it's fairly repetitive. So, most of it we know, but like when it comes to, some of the planning and the crane logistics and stuff like that, we generally understand where the right place is to go, but ultimately, we would, as we get into that position of, getting some budgeting before we're doing some tendering, we have an indication of, maybe some of the trades that we're going to be going between. So we would generally sort of stick with just the one and just get that sort of a check. And, typically we're doing that before we would be tendering. And then, but if it's more complex, then, we may bring them in earlier as we're doing a part of the pursuit as well, depending on where that expertise is.
Yeah, I'd say from our side, then a lot of projects we're doing the fabrication on. So you got, your ABM modeling to where ordering still, 6 months ahead of time to get it on the mill orders and all that. So some of that becomes a challenge. We get the project and they're like, okay, here you go, do it, and we're going to erect it in 3 months. And it kind of doesn't always work that way. So trying to find that balance. I don't know if it answers your question, but we've kind of seen it both ways. Sometimes when we're in there, as soon as it's a concept in their mind, even with the developer of like, hey, we know, they know what we do and what we bring to the table, even if it's a design contract and we don't have the full erection scope figured out and the numbers and all that. We've done some of that as well, where it's just strictly design and we're in there bringing solutions really early on, and then, getting those POs to where we can order material as quickly as possible.
I think I would answer that in your own workflows, when you get to the point of, I want to go ask a superintendent what they think. I'm structured, but if you're in your own workflow and, hey, I'd really like to go ask the superintendent what they think, you might also want to start saying, maybe I should go ask a trade partner what they think, or ask that specific trade partner's superintendent or salesperson or manager, or whoever your best relationship is in your market. Because my gut is that always happens a little bit later than we probably should have. And so if that helps answer the question, because I don't think it's one size fit all, right? If it's crane location, that could be at napkin stage. If it's structural design assist, optimization of structure, that might not be until a DD set or an SD set or something like that. But that's what I've tried to tell we design a lot of formwork in-house, and we use we have a lot of in-house engineers designing stuff. And if you were thinking to yourself, should I ask a superintendent? Let's also call the rebar guy. Let's call the pump guy. Let's call the concrete ready-mix supplier, because they might see something we don't see. If that answers your question.
Yeah. Great stuff. Good question.
Well, one question. I have a question. So when do you get started? Has to do with your contract structure too, probably sometimes. So like when it comes to IPD,
That's a lie.
Design build.
That's not true.
I'm asking.
We do all of our pre-con for free. I've been paid once in my life to do the stuff they
Everyone's
get paid
working
for.
free?
Correct. Yes,
So
exactly.
my question for subcontractor and then Daniel and GC, which is your ideal contract structure? I know that depends on a lot of things, but what is the perspective of the builder and what's the perspective of the subcontractor as ideal contract structure? IPD was huge about 10 years ago. You don't hear quite much.
I would say the ideal structure is one where you can have control on making decisions. So for us, design build is probably the preferred, because we're involved in the whole process. And I guess when you're doing the design build, that might be another example to say in that sort of structure, there's more flexibility to bring in the trades earlier because we're making those decisions. Then you stip some contracts as well, but then if you're doing construction management, and then really a lot of that is, well, you're at the risk of what the owner wants to do, because whatever we propose doesn't always go, because the owner's always going to want to have a bit of a say there in regards to where the contract goes, and quite often they're just looking at the dollar and not understanding the bigger picture. And a good point there in regards to that timing can change depending on the contract structure from a GC point, but yeah.
I'd say for BZI, we do a lot of design build, and it's been pretty successful in doing just that. That process of being there early. Everybody, like I said, earlier the better. But the design build, you actually have that opportunity a lot more than just a standard. Engineer gives you a set of drawings and you have to live with it.
I'm gonna say the same thing. The only thing I would add to it is some sort of target value design assist, because I think we're living in a dream world where your guys' clients won't allow the subs to get signed up early enough to really do that. And so we got to leave some sort of out that if we said we could optimize it and take your thing that the design assist concrete contractor said would be worth $8 million, if we think we can do it for 7.5, there's a target value. But if we don't get there, you have an out to go back to the market, or something that allows you guys to go back to your clients with an out. Because as much as I'd like it to just be design assist everywhere, your clients kind of think we're out to screw them somehow, and they're hiring you to make sure you get the best price in the market. And we got to find a way to get both of those, where you can get us on earlier, but still make them feel like they're getting the best value. So.
Nice. Any other questions?
Awesome.
All right, let's wrap it there then.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.